What's up, everybody? It is September 26th, 2023. Hope everybody's Tuesday is off to a wonderful start. Mine is, a couple cups of coffee down. Can't complain about that. All right, so we've got a fun one today, which is that Linchpin is not classic CrossFit. I know, gasp, shock, horror, awe, all those kind of things. Now, I'll define what I mean by that and why I thought it was an interesting topic. So I hear it all the time, Linchpin's classic CrossFit, etc. And I must admit, I'm sorry, it's a bit of a clickbait title. I get it, but it is what it is. But before we launch into that, I'm going to read one really cool testimonial that was in the squads feature on the BTWB app today that I thought was awesome. So I'll share it. Because yesterday, we did those miserable bike sprints, right? Every 3 minutes you go. 12 calories for men, 8 for women on the air bike. Horrific. And depending upon how much of a beast you are on the air bike, some people could do that in like 12 to 15 seconds, which is ridiculous. And other people, 25 seconds, other people 35 seconds, other people 45 seconds. It just depends upon where you are in your fitness journey. I don't make money on the bike. It was not a fun day. But Ethan S. posted this in the BTWB squads feature for Linchpin. It says, first time posting in the squads. I've been a member of Linchpin since 2018, but struggled keeping consistent over the years. First of all, how amazing is that? I've been a member for 5 years. That's some serious lurking. Just posted today. I'd fall off during the summer months as I'm an avid golfer. Couldn't find a good balance of doing CrossFit and golfing. This year, I decided just to drop the number of workouts to 3 times a week for the summer, and even with a 6-week-old son, I've been able to be in the gym every week. The Linchpin conversations helped me prepare for the proper scaling, and I listened to my body these last 6 weeks. As I would get into the gym, never really feeling 100%, but I would lift what felt appropriately challenging for that day. Today, the bike sprints was a shock. I dropped my total sprint time overall, when you add all the 10 intervals together, by 3 minutes from April 2022 and a minute 30 from the last time that we did this in January. I've always known the Pat's programming was fantastic, but after completing my first full year of consistent workouts, I can't believe the progress I've seen. Thanks for the effort and time you put into it, this stuff works. So really cool. Consistency goes a really long way. So Ethan, after 5 years of lurking, good to hear from you. Congratulations. All right, so Linchpin not being classic CrossFit. It is and it isn't, right? So classic CrossFit is, constantly varied functional movements at high intensity. I believe that people will call Linchpin classic CrossFit because I still do 100% believe and do the minimalist approach, meaning creating one workout a day that is deceptive in how potent or effective it is and to how much of a broad scope of fitness you can get from doing one workout. And we don't deadlift every day, but the deadlift goes up and all that kind of stuff. That's the beautiful, confusing, and challenging part about programming from a minimalist perspective. So from that aspect, yes, classic CrossFit. We don't do the heavy lift plus Metcon nonsense every day. And so I think that's probably one of the biggest factors that people will say Linchpin's classic CrossFit, because we don't subscribe to the heavy lift plus Metcon. But I think it's a really great way to excel at neither one of those elements. And regular people see games athletes do it, and they want to train like games athletes. And to speak frankly, it's a terrible idea for most people, and they'll burn out physically, emotionally, and crash into some sort of a wall. Not a good idea. So we don't want to do that. Now, the methodology that Greg Glassman created of CrossFit, I do 100% believe was truly revolutionary at the time. And I mean every single solitary word of that. But I don't believe that it was complete and neatly buttoned up and like there weren't any more chapters to write. I don't think that he wrote the final chapter. And I believe that maybe that will cause some shock, but I believe that he alluded to that as well. Because as I've said before, I heard on many, many occasions that somebody from an audience, whatever, would ask him directly, like, hey, okay, constantly varied, gotcha, that makes sense. Constantly not meaning random. Functional movements, yep, that makes sense. The high intensity piece, like high intensity every day? Really? Is that really what we should do for the rest of our lives? And that's the best idea for our long-term health and fitness? And as I've said before, heard it many times with my own ears, every time he would get that question, he would be honest. And he would say, it's a good question. Truth is, I don't know. I don't know if high intensity, I'm paraphrasing, every workout every day for the rest of your life is the best course of action. Because, as he would say, again paraphrasing, all of us in the CrossFit community are currently involved in the largest experiment ever done on high intensity training. And the experiment is ongoing. So we don't know how it's going to end. So the fact that it was an I don't know was the answer, that means it's not definitive. The end hasn't been written. It's TBD. And now, what has it been since the first workout hit the website in like 2001? It's been like 22 years. I feel that there's been a good amount of sifting through the ashes and checking things out now that more than a couple of decades have gone by. And I have formed some very strong opinions just based upon doing this day in and day out as my full-time occupation for a very, very long time. And having a pool of athletes with Linchpin, thousands of athletes from all around the world of all age ranges and ability levels to really test these theories and see what actually makes sense and what do I believe, from what I have seen and experienced, should be the last couple final chapters that were yet unwritten back in the day. And so that's kind of where I think some of the things that we do at Linchpin is a divergence from what historically has been classic CrossFit, because, the final chapters of the book were not written. So let's see. And he also said, and again, I'm paraphrasing, that, he believed these final chapters, or the future innovation of the methodology, wouldn't come from the mothership. It would come from gym owners, the gyms out in the community, because they're the actual ones dealing with people every day and seeing the stuff day in and day out and tracking the data and working with their community. That makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense to me. And so here are my humble additions to the methodology, and I think what makes Linchpin a little bit unique. So, first of all, with the schedule that we follow and have for literally years at Linchpin, classic CrossFit methodology is 3 on, 1 off, 3 on, 1 off. It's been that way for years and years and years. At Linchpin, for the longest time, for literally years, we've done 3 on, 1 off, 2 on, 1 off. So we take every Thursday and Sunday as rest days. And that, I believe, is a superior schedule to follow for most people compared to a 3 on and 1 off. So that right there is a divergence from the classics. The heavy days at a high heart rate are something that we've been working in for a really long time at Linchpin, and I think they work phenomenally well. Let me rephrase that. I know that they work from years of data phenomenally well to get people fit and ferociously strong at the same time. And they're also fun. So that would be another potential divergence there. This is a big one. Modulating intensity. And this goes back to the original, when Greg was posed with this question, hey, high intensity every day? And the answer was, we're not sure yet. I feel I can tell you that I am sure that high intensity every day is not ideal for most people, and they will not be met with success long term. You can play that game for a number of days, weeks, months, or years, depending upon where you are in your athletic journey. But at some point in time, you will crash and burn because you're human and not an android. And low intensity days have training value, and moderate intensity days have training value. And when you allow yourself days of low intensity and days of moderate intensity, then you actually feel physically and mentally ready to bring the heat for a high intensity training day. But when it's going to be high intensity every day, that's not going to go well for most people, and it's going to lead to plateaus, and good things are not going to occur. Then your fitness is going to go in the wrong direction, and you're going to wonder what happens. And that modulating intensity is not, it's kind of two parts in my opinion. It should be a discussion, like an open discussion of the values of that, which we do all the time at Linchpin, and every Friday we post a video about modulating intensity for the private track and how to approach different workouts so that you can have a plan and do that effectively so that you don't burn out and you continue to make gains and you can capitalize on those high intensity training days. And then the other part of modulating intensity, so that's not generally done, quite frankly, and I think that's a tragedy. So that's something I believe we've really pushed forward. And then modulating intensity also on the programming side of the house. You can, as you get better and better and better at programming, not just make sure that you're covering your bases from what would be the more obvious, rudimentary, fundamental aspects of programming, from covering your time domains, your rep ranges, your movement patterns, the whole 9 yards. But you can program in a way that even if somebody wasn't as clued into modulating their own intensity as ideally they would be to optimize their success, you can program the workouts in a way that assist with that, even if somebody is unaware. You can program in a way with intensity also in mind of low, moderate, and high days as well. And that took me a while to figure out, as a programmer, but I think it's a really big aspect. So there's the programming side of the house, and then the having open chats about it with your athletes so that they get it and they understand the value and that they can execute it properly. I would say linked to that is also understanding the training versus testing mindset. Again, both in programming workouts and in athlete discussions. Every single day being a 21-15-9 couplet or something like that leans more towards a test than a training adaptation. There are better ways to train workouts and lay out your strength and conditioning blocks so that when those test days come up, you're ready for it, and you've been conditioning your body, your mind, your musculature, your cardiovascular system with these training days that set the athlete up for success on a testing day, if they so desire to pull the trigger on a testing day. But then also having the education with the athlete, you've not just educated them on modulating intensity and the values of low, moderate, and high intensity, but they understand the difference between testing days and training days, and how, truth be told, it's almost like an old, it was high intensity every day. Well, if it's high intensity every day, that's more of a testing mindset. And again, that's not going to end well for most people. Understanding the low and the moderate days as well allows you to bring in that training mindset more regularly, not just beat the stuffing out of yourself for no reason, train for decades, make gains for decades, and then have yourself feeling good and prepared when a testing day comes around and you have decided that this is going to be the day that you bring it, and the programming has led you there intentionally and deliberately. So that training versus testing, I would say, is another one as well. Another thing I think that we do a bit different than classic CrossFit is, not all the time, I assign plenty of loadings and then, give recommendations, and we do videos about how to modify that and scale if needed, because scaling is cool. But we also assign workouts that are just percentage based. So there won't be a number next to a push press or a back squat or whatnot. There'll be a percentage of your 1 rep max for you to use during that workout. That's not something you see traditionally done in classic CrossFit either, but I think it's tremendously beneficial for athletes to be exposed to that as well. And so we do that. Here's another big one for sure. For time. That is about as classic CrossFit as you can be, right? We started posting a long time ago, not for time workouts. I know, CrossFit not for time. Every week we post one, and we're very open about saying you can do as many not for time as you want, and you will most likely be good to go. And as a matter of fact, working in not for time days, in addition to understanding modulating intensity, in addition to understanding training versus testing, 3 major concepts that are largely not addressed in the community, you're going to have a really good long-term experience. and your body's probably going to feel good, and you're going to feel good between the years, and you're not going to get burnt out on training, and you're going to continue to make advancements because you're training intelligently and not just running into a wall, burning it down every day. So the not for time, fantastic, great. We do that, like I said, ballpark once a week, and tell people you're always authorized to just not run the clock on any day that you're not particularly feeling it, because that also helps you be consistent. If you're not burning out and feeling stressed about walking into the gym, you're going to walk into your garage more regularly. And at the end of the day, it's tough to beat consistency. Consistency goes a really long way. So keeping athletes from getting burned out, keeping their knees back and shoulders feeling good, again, through modulating their intensity and understanding that most days are training days and not testing days, allowing them to turn the clock off every now and then. This is why Linchpin works so darn well. It's an actual reason that I've, again, over the course of a very long time as a student of the game, has led me here. And I must give credit where credit is due, because there's for time workouts and there's not for time workouts. And then I wish I could say who it was, but a member of, so the not for time is, NFT, not for time. People will post it every now and then. But then somebody in the Linchpin community, and I wish I could give credit to whoever it was, came up with a middle ground. You've got for time, you've got not for time. And then this person says you also have kinda for time, KFT, which I absolutely love, which is just basically, you know what? I'm not feeling super froggy today. I'm going to run the clock, okay, just so that I have a little data point. I'll put it down in the BTWB app. I'll let everyone know it was a moderate intensity day, and that's cool. And I'm looking at the clock, but I'm not letting the clock pressure me into a pace that doesn't make sense for me today. So it's kind of for time. So I love that. There's for time, there's kind of for time, and there's not for time workouts. And they all have value. And then also I would say just how to program workouts. I think there was a lot of evolution needed there as well, quite frankly. I wish I could remember off the top of my head. Maybe I can call it up real quick if you'll give me a moment. I launched into this long-term, this Linchpin Conversations you can find on it as well, but myself and Adrian Bosman did a 2-part series on Very Not Random on how to program workouts. I'm going to the playlist right now. And that can really dive into, if you really want to just kind of geek out on it. And the way that we do things that I've figured out at Linchpin that works so darn well, it is different than the norm. There's even some part in one of those 2 shows where Adrian stopped and he's like, oh really, so you do that there? Like, I haven't heard that before. Like that's different and unique. Yes. Okay, so it's Very Not Random number 82 and number 83. That's how to program workouts part 1 and part 2. And hopefully that helps people figure it out. So yes, there's a couple ways that Linchpin is classic CrossFit. We're a minimalist program, and we don't do the heavy lift plus Metcon nonsense every day. But then I just rattled off, 5 or 6 or 7 different things that I feel are ways that hopefully Linchpin has helped advance the methodology. From scheduling to heavy days at a high heart rate, to modulating intensity, from programming as to open athlete discussions, training versus testing, both in programming and athlete discussions, sometimes not assigning loads for mixed modality workouts, but rather providing a percentage of your 1 rep max, for time, not for time, kind of for time, and then those 2 episodes on my take on how to program workouts. So anyway, sorry for the clickbaity title, but sometimes that's what you do. Have a great day, and we'll talk later.